The gentleman who's getting the first award is the one that made me a real dean. You might wonder what that means. In a meeting of deans, the very first meeting, I was so pumped. I'm like, hey, I'm dean. And so one of them looks at me and kind of laughs and says, Neely, you might have been named dean, but you're a real dean when you raise your first $1 million. So I kind of slunk away. And the gentleman that you're going to meet and his wonderful wife, both of them together made that happen. So I tell Jeff he may have given me the job, but I was only, as he said, interim until these folks made it happen. But here's the funny thing. Dave Murfin was all set to present this award. And Dave, those of you who know, calls himself the deal chaser. And he is, you all know this, correct? And at the last minute, and this is true, I can vouch for it, at the very last minute, a deal he's been working on in Africa for a long time suddenly came through. So 3 days ago, he left for Africa. So you know what? The next best thing, we have Jeff Bitter channeling Dave Murphy. So we've got to see this. So Jeff, please come on up.
Thank you, Neely. Welcome, everybody, tonight. I feel it's a great honor to be here to be able to channel Dave Murfin as he was pulled away at the last minute and is unable to attend. I've been working on it now for several minutes, and I think I have succeeded in channeling Dave. I have this insatiable desire right now to do a deal. I am going to discover oil. Who is in it with me? We're going to meet outside right after dinner. It's really my great, great pleasure tonight, though, to be able to introduce the first recipient of the 2013 Distinguished Alumni Award. Roger Davis is the majority owner and chief executive officer of Paxton Patterson LLC in Chicago, where he first joined the company as general manager in 1980. Roger earned his bachelor's degree in business administration and accounting right here from the KU School of Business, which is good because this is a Distinguished Alumni Award. And that was in 1972. Now, Roger always credits the great faculty at KU with making the single biggest difference in his career. His membership on the KU School Board of KU School of Business Board of Advisors began nearly 20 years ago, and in fact he served as the chair of the board for several years, starting in 1996. Now, Roger is also just a tremendous role model for our students. In fact, that's really, of all the advantages that we can point to when we honor distinguished alumni, it's the ability for our new students to look and see role models for them to develop their careers and be successful. And that's exactly what Roger does. He and his wife, Julie, reside in Chicago, and they live in as noted in the program, a house divided. Julie is an alumna of Kansas State University, but they are each loyal supporters of both KU and Kansas State, except on days where they play each other. So please join me in welcoming our first Distinguished Alumni awardee tonight, Roger Davis. Roger?
I want to take a picture. Come on, come on, come on.
Photoshop.
Put him in the middle. Yeah, there you go.
Finally, I was called.
Thank
you. It's great to be here, and Neely and Jeff, thank you for the wonderful welcome, and looking out, there's a lot of people I know and have connected with again tonight. It's been way too long since we connected. And I won't tonight try to recognize every last person I should, because that would be a very long list. Neely asked me to cover the 41 years since I left KU in 10 minutes. And I can report that the single most important observation I have is that in the future, starting about 2 weeks ago, I should say starting 2 weeks ago and going into the future, when people ask me, how are you? I answer, I'm grateful. And what I realized as I prepared for tonight is that I've been the beneficiary of an enormous amount of support and development. Sitting at the special guest table over here, the Davis special guest table, are two couples who have been longtime friends. In one case, Bill Williamson and I go back 50 years. His wife is truly like a sister. Paul and Nancy Schmidt are relatives of Julie's who became my instant great friends, and their support has been enormous. I'm going to return to the rest of the special guest table more in the context of my work life. What I would say, though, is just what Jeff reported, and I carefully included in my bio that's worth rereading. Because we are at the University of Kansas School of Business. Roger always credits the school's faculty with making the single biggest difference in his career. That was the foundation from which everything occurred in these 41 years. As Bill will attest, I was a pretty marginal student at a pretty marginal high school. When I got here, I was inspired. Professor Scheer, I'm elated that you're here tonight. You gave me a command of statistical analysis and, more importantly, observation that has helped me in all these 41 years. I would also add that it was difficult to decide who were the professors who made the single most important contributions. But there definitely are two. And as we told Neely at the time that we made her a dean, that to the extent we have naming rights on the building, those naming rights are going to be used to recognize these two professors who have made the most impact on me. And there's an important story to tell about the first professor. In 1975, I graduated in 72. In 1975, over a weekend, I became completely driven to let Professor H.K. LaCour know how much he had contributed in my problems of general management class. And as I moved from being an accountant to being more of a manager within an accounting firm, what he had taught was extremely important. I wrote again a letter, and on Monday morning I called the School of Business and I said, I need Professor LaCour's address. I have a very important letter for him. And they said, I'm sad to report that he died 2 weeks ago. That's one of the lessons I would take away in my 41 years, is to not let those situations occur. Tell people how much they're appreciated, how much they've contributed to you. Don't wait. He was a professor who I think generally was considered a tough professor. I learned a great deal in his class that continues through today. The other faculty member is Bob Sterling. Professor Sterling, sadly I report that he passed away in 2010. Prior to his death, I didn't make an attempt to reach him. I read his obituary, and I learned that he graduated from, he earned his PhD from the University of Florida, 1964, in economics. And that reminded me about when I was a student of his in the advanced accounting problems, or advanced accounting theory, that he impressed upon us on day one that he only had 6 hours of accounting. Yet he was, at that time, already a full professor, having earned his PhD in '64, and according to his obituary at least, been promoted to full professor in 1969 at KU. He taught me more about clear thinking than anyone ever, and I attribute almost single-handedly enabled me to pass the CPA exam May of my senior year and get that behind me. He was great, and it's unfortunate he was only at KU for, I think, 8 years total. Went on to a great career. So that's some of the highlights I want to start with, and truly stay within my 10 minutes here, though. After I graduated, I had a great opportunity to go to work for Touche Ross in Kansas City. Tonight, sitting at the special guest table is Bob and Sandy Pecci. Bob was the partner in charge of the audit department all the years that I was there. He was very instrumental in developing me first as an accountant and then moving me from being an accountant only to being a manager at Touche Ross. The firm of Touche Ross has a great history of the Kansas City office. Ed Kangas is not here tonight, but Ed went on to be the global managing partner of Touche. Bob, though, was the person who single-handedly, I think, at times moved me along and got me to where I was in 1980. That's a transition for me, though. 1980, Don Moreland, who was the executive vice president of the Frank Paxton Company, a client of Touche and a client that I'd worked on. Don wanted me to join Paxton as the general manager in Chicago of the Paxton Patterson division, and he did that. And he single-handedly brought me over and became my boss, and for the next 11 years, Don was a tremendous boss and a mentor. Don passed on 2002. Tonight, the rest of my special guests are two of his three children. His third one was not able to join us, but Sue and Mark Moreland are here. And Sue's husband, Jim Lopez, who all three of them are great friends of mine, are here to celebrate on my behalf, recognizing that Don had so much to do with the success in my career. I am very fortunate to have had excellent bosses at every stage of my career. In 1990, the Frank Paxton Company, which was a public company, and I had become a member of its board of directors and benefited a lot from the insights of that experience. The company was sold, and in this case it really was sold as opposed to acquired, because the company was the voting stock was owned by the three sons of the founder, and they were in their 70s, and they said they'd rather have cash than certificates, and so they sold the company. We became part of Geldwin Inc., which is a door and window manufacturer, and the tie there was that the Frank Paxton Company was the largest hardwood lumber and plywood distributor in the United States, primarily operating in the Midwest and Southwest. As part of Geldwin, I continued to have outstanding bosses who not only were bosses, but they were mentors. Dick Wendt was the founder of Geldwin. For many years, Dick was on the Forbes 400 richest people in the United States, and he made it the old-fashioned way. He made his money through manufacturing. Dick was, I would say, the single smartest person I've ever been around in terms of ability to change subjects on a dime. My transition personally was I became the president of the Frank Paxton Company, operated as a subsidiary of Geldwin Inc. for many years. Transitioned on to Geldwin Corporate, and then in 2004, I told Julie, my wife, that I really appreciated what Geldwin had done, but I didn't want to continue on living in Chicago, but officially officing in Oregon, where the company was headquartered. I'd been treated wonderfully, but I needed to do something else. And I also needed to go back to the roots of Paxton Patterson. I had been involved in all the 80s full-time, the 90s and early 2000s, very part-time. We purchased the majority controlling interest, and I returned to do that. The question becomes now, what's the draw there? And the draw is much of what the draw is for the faculty here of preparing students to go successfully into the future. Paxton Patterson's business is focused solely on grades 6 through 12 students. And when I'm asked, what does Paxton Patterson do? It's a simple answer. We change students' lives by helping them maximize their potential. I can't, in the remaining time, describe to you exactly what all we do to accomplish that, other than to make some high-level comments and to say that throughout these years that I've been at Paxton Patterson, I've seen how we do change students' lives. Right now, students in the United States are being impacted by the concerns we all have about that public education isn't getting the job done. That's been for 2 decades at least promoted. There's been lots of reforms. Those reforms in some cases have made some difference, and in other cases maybe not. But right now there's a consistent high stakes testing that saps a huge amount of emotion, time, and energy within public education. What we do is we have a different view of success than passing an examination. And our view starts with the belief that it's important that every single student finds what is the best match for their interests and aptitudes. And I look out, all of us have pretty similar aptitudes in terms of strong math, strong verbal communication, strong written communication, and in a traditional IQ sense, the IQ in this room is very high. There are a lot of other students today whose interests and aptitudes are much different than ours, and in some cases, that's not in the school system today. The schools they're in isn't providing the results that they need. Our most fundamental belief after that we're searching for the intersection of their interests and aptitudes is to then help them match to what are the careers that they would be best suited for, and how do they best prepare for those careers that can take a lot of different directions. We accomplish that through proprietary, what we call learning systems that deliver through highly engaging interactive multimedia lessons, but they also then, half the time, the students spend hands-on activities that reflect doing work that would be related to a career that they're studying. And the way I can illustrate this the best way, because this is something that's difficult to describe to people who've never seen it in process, which is probably most everyone in the room. We have a health occupations program that is being used at lots and lots of health occupations academies, high schools that grades 9 through 12, the students have enrolled as 9th graders, in many cases without much understanding of what they're getting into. They think they have an interest. What our program does is in the first year there, they cover 17 different health occupations areas: dentistry, ophthalmology, nursing, etc. And not only do they learn about them through, again, the highly engaging multimedia, but they also do these hands-on activities that replicate or at least simulate, but they do it with their hands, hands-on, minds-on learning. In dentistry, as an example, we have a tool that simulates quite effectively a drill, and we have laminated layered tiles with a drawing of different teeth on the tile, and students practice, and they know that if they go from the beige to the red, the patient is screaming. In the real world of making a decision about, am I good at it and do I like it, it's only through that firsthand experience that you really get close to it and can make an informed decision. And what we universally find is that at the end of the school year, in those 17 areas, it's almost certain that each student will say, well, 12 of those, I'm pretty sure that's not me, not a good match. Now these three possibilities, and I'm not going to rule them out yet, but these two, I think this is really me. And what they also realize is that in that year and studying those 17 areas, and they would have a different student partner in each of those 17, and they would rotate around. What they also come to realize is they have learned an enormous amount of applied math, science, communications, and in some cases, the student has gone from thinking they're doing poorly and they're not well suited for a career that involves math or science to understanding in context and doing work that there's just a whole different side to it. I could obviously go on for a long time. But I'm back at my roots, love doing this. We generally work with maverick superintendents and assistant superintendents who are wanting to make a change for their students because they know that their students aren't universally getting all they need. And definitely, I feel very strongly that the 20+% of students who drop out and never finish high school, our society has to find and help them find what are they good at. They're good at something. The earlier they find out, the more likely it is that they will stay in school because they will feel like a winner, not a loser. And then my very last comment is on the why do I say I'm grateful, is that I'm blessed with the most wonderful wife in the world who makes me better at everything that I do. So thank you all again very much. It's wonderful to be here and to receive this recognition that's a lifetime award. Thank you.